Hello to all our friends. Hi. I'm also live now on Facebook. Kath said there's a feedback on IG. So please mute yourself first. Okay. So we're live on Facebook, my Facebook, Bixie Facebook, and Rosalia Gitao, our CEO's LinkedIn. So we're all over different social media channels today because we have a very, very important and exciting event this afternoon, this evening rather. So it's 6:30 p.m. in Manila. We actually adopted a new time slot. This time we used to do it 6 p.m. But then we noticed that some ladies have been going back to work physically, so they're still traveling, going back home. So we want to accommodate more of our ladies, and of course even the men who want to attend our live. So we're doing it 6:30 p.m. Echoing a lot on IG. What's happening? Okay. Let's see. Sorry.
While you're talking about IG, Lorna and myself, do we have to turn off our mics when we're on video?
Yeah.
Okay, so Lorna, can you put your mic on mute on IG?
Okay. So sorry for that. Okay, before we start our talk this evening, before I invite our guest to speak, we are offering actually a very interesting offer. We still have free insurance with unlimited telemedicine consultation exclusively via the Bixi app. So if you download Bixi and you apply via the hot deals, when you download Bixi, register, and you look at the hot deals, you will immediately see yung free insurance. So, meron dito sa screen, dalawang QR codes, yan, for iOS and Android. So, scan nyo lang yan, download the Bixi app, register, and immediately you will be qualified. I mean, you will get free insurance with unlimited telemedicine insurance. So, this is exclusive, and you only have, what do you call this? We only have until this weekend for this free insurance. But of course, if you sign up hanggang weekend, if you sign up until the weekend, you will still be covered, of course. Not just until the weekend, but until the end of our promo. So ito po yung free insurance. And this is the more exciting part. Since Vixie is looking for ambassadors, ayan, to collab with Vixie, automatically when you have downloaded the free insurance, you are qualified to be invited to be a Bixie ambassador. O, diba? Exciting. So, if I were you, download the Bixie app, register na kayo, tapos, who knows, you will be the next Bixie ambassador. So, hindi lang naman one yung magiging ambassador ng Bixie. There could be two, there could be three, there could be five. So, download the Bixie app. You can see the QR codes on your screen. And then download the free insurance with unlimited telemedicine consultation. It's very convenient because you will have access to doctors online. You don't have to queue up at the hospital or a clinic, especially ngayon na may threat pa rin ang COVID. At the same time, you will be part of the pool of the next Bixie ambassadors. So, we haven't started our main event yet, but there's one here from Nigeria. She's like, hi, hello from Nigeria. I can't watch the live event right now, but I will definitely watch it later. So hello, Jinika Anastasia from Nigeria. Very nice. I actually remember her. She was one of those who really stayed during the replay of our live event in Lagos. So, hello again. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to introduce to you our esteemed speaker for today. So this evening, firstly, this will be a very dynamic conversation. So Rosalia, the CEO of Big C, will be doing the fireside for this event. So the main speaker, however, is Miss Lorna Tan, who is the head of financial planning literacy at DBS Bank. So prior to joining DBS, she was the invest editor at the Straits Times, covering finance and consumer protection issues. She also has won numerous awards for excellence in financial reporting and public service journalism, and is the author of four bestsellers: Money Smart, Own Your Financial Destiny, Retire Smart, Financial Planning Made Easy, More Talk Money, and Talk Money. So, ladies and of course, gentlemen, let's all welcome to the virtual stage Lorna Tan and Rosalia Gitao, who will do the fireside.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Rosalia.
It is such a thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing your evenings with us, your early evenings, your after work commute. What better way to end your day of hard labor than to think about how you're going to take all that money you just made today and turn that into more money? And who better to advise us than, I don't know, one of Asia's leading banks, financial experts and financial planners. So one of the things that came up in the Bixi app at the top of the year, obviously, first thing, download the Bixi app, become part of the community. Why? Because one of the things that we do in our community is we ask everybody, what is it that you what is it that you need in terms of knowledge or network or tools to really get you to a place to have a more sound financial health, right? And one of the first things that we did at the top of the year was ask everybody, what's your New Year's resolution, right? Everyone's New Year's resolution. What's everyone's New Year's resolution? I want to make more money. Okay, so how do you go about doing that? And so one of the top requests among our community was, they're like, I need a financial planner. I need a financial planner, right? I need somebody to help me figure out my finances. So voila, it took us a little bit of time, but we have a financial expert joining us. And as you've seen, she's not only a financial expert, she's also an author. So she's literally done the research, written about it, devised strategies and tools that can really get us to a place where we can be more knowledgeable about our money, because all of us, I think, could use help in that department. So without further ado, let's get into it. Lorna, welcome to the Bixi community. I'm so excited to listen to everything you have to say. I'm quite literally going to be taking notes because I also plan on increasing my own net worth after this chat. So I think we'll kick off. So no pressure, but I think we're all hoping to increase our net worth based on what you're going to teach us today. So before I start, I just want, maybe you can tell us a bit about yourself. Tell us about your own journey to become a financial planning expert. Like, how did you get from, where I think a lot of us started to where we are now?
Well, for me, the journey began when I was a child. So I remember picking up two very important lessons from my mother. And those lessons helped to inculcate positive money habits and money behaviors and money attitudes. So it has had a very long runway for me. So lesson number one was a man is not a financial plan. So to me, that means taking charge and being responsible for your own financial independence. And it's not just, that a man is not a financial plan. Your child is also not your financial plan. So I have decided from a long time ago that I will not have to rely on my parents. I will not have to rely on my children for financial help when I grow old. So I hope that by doing that, I will be able to be the last sandwich generation in that sense. Because right now I'm looking after my parents and I'm looking after my children. Yeah. So that gave me the motivation and to help me to make certain money decisions, throughout my life to be able to achieve that goal, that I want to be financially independent. So the other important lesson that I learned from my mom is to be thrifty and to live within my means. But later on, of course, I realized that being able to save is just one part of the equation. You must also be able to make your savings work hard for you. And by doing so, you can also counter certain risks like longevity, inflation, of course, the escalating healthcare costs risk as well. And I think in my journey, I have also been empowered with information because I was in the insurance industry in the early part of my career. And subsequently, I became the invest editor, I was the invest editor for the finance section of the two newspapers in Singapore, which is the Straits Times and the Sunday Times. So researching, writing, and rubbing shoulders with finance experts definitely helped me to build my own knowledge, which I share with my readers. And I've also authored 4 books that you have mentioned, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity. In the last few years, I've also grown very interested in estate planning, which is an important component of financial planning. So I'm also a certified estate planner as well. So these experiences has helped me to where I am at today, which is why I'm contributing what I've learned at DBS Bank. I'm head of the financial planning literacy team there, and it has been a very enriching journey for me.
That is a really incredible story. And I think you just gave Bixie our next logo for our t-shirts, which is "A man is not a financial planner." That's going to just stay with me. And I think it's going to stay with a lot of our audience. Very beautifully put. Thanks to your mom for that lesson. I also think you brought up another thing that really resonates with our audience. So a lot of people know on this call, so myself and Bill were sisters and we're both half Filipina. And we know that there's a lot of, particularly in Asia, but that's not to isolate other places as well. In Kenya, the same thing happens. There is this pressure on the sandwich generation that you just referred to. So it's not only the financial pressures of having to provide for our children, there's also the additional pressure of having to provide for our seniors. And I know a lot of the Filipinas in tonight's call and in tonight's meetup can absolutely relate to that. So before I kind of get to the next question, I maybe want to ask, how do you approach that balance of being a member of the sandwich generation? What is a healthy way to balance those obligations, a healthy and sustainable way?
Yeah, I think the first step is to be aware that, that right now you have these responsibilities, and again, the mindset that you can get out of it and not have it repeat itself for the next generation. Yeah. So when I'm doing my financial planning, I'm very much aware that when I plan for my retirement, I have to plan for the retirement of my parents as well, because I'm their retirement plan. My brother and I, the only 2 of us in the family. My parents don't have much savings, so we have to also be their retirement plan. So when I started planning, I ensured that I have a long-term investment view, and I ensure that the expenses of my parents are tabulated and included in my financial plan, so that the income flows that I'm going to grow and generate from my portfolios should be enough to cover my parents' needs and wants and my needs and wants, depending on the stages of life. So it's actually a very deliberate effort. It's something that I planned in my 30s. I'm in my 50s now. So, all these years, I've been regularly and religiously monitoring, all these spreadsheets that I have. Of course, there are digital tools these days. So I do a lot of monitoring and ensuring that, if there are any shortfalls, then how then do I close the gaps, be it through buying insurance or making suitable investments, and also looking at government schemes to help us.
Yeah.
So depending on what country you're in, it's also good to understand what kind of government schemes, in terms of the pension schemes that you have, government-led insurance schemes, and so on, that can help you fund, the retirement lifestyles of yourselves and your parents.
Yeah. Keeping track and keeping informed. I mean,
it's definitely a deliberate effort. It's something that I do, every month, and it's always at the back of my mind. So this requires you to have clarity on where all your money sources are, the income flows that comes in and the income flows that goes out.
And that's a really important part, because we found, at least in Bixie, in our community, there's a lot of women, even statistically, have the feeling of anxiety when they think about money. So the natural reaction is literally like, I'm just not going to think about it. And so, what you're saying is, no, you can't just stick our head in the sand. We have to be deliberate. That's really critical. And part of being deliberate is like, every month I have to keep track and have to keep informed, because sticking my head in the sand, as you said, you started this in your 30s. One day you're 30, one day you're 50, and time is against you when it comes to accumulating wealth, right? So I guess this is a nice way to ask, what does we entitled tonight's event as Happily Ever After, right? And as you so aptly put it to open our discussion, a man is not a financial plan. So if Happily Ever After isn't a prince coming to like save me from all of my bad financial habits, what does Happily Ever After look like to you? What does it mean?
Okay. To me, it will have 3 primary components. So the first one will be good health. The second one will be having a purpose in life. And the third one will be having sustainable income that can last me, a lifetime, and hopefully, extra for, for the beneficiaries who are as a legacy for them or for charity. So these are my 3 important components that I will definitely have in my Happily Ever After.
I love that. That's perfect. Happy health, a purpose in life, and sustainability. 1 second. That is, I think so much of what you're saying is dispelling. I think of dispelling a lot of notions of what people assume is going to bring them happiness. So you have, on the one hand, some people who think materialistic goods are, the end of what happiness is. And on the other hand, people who think happiness is physically being joyful every second. But what you just described, which is something that we really try and impart with our community, is that like wealth is time. Time to pursue the things that you care about, time to give back, time to spend with the ones you love. And if you're lacking in health, a purpose, and something to care about, and like you said, give off a legacy, what is effectively the point of life? And you're not really necessarily going to achieve that happily ever after. But like you said, the resources to be able to pursue all of these things are really important. But top of line, absolutely, this is your health, right? Like without anything else, there's nothing. I think
that's true. And you can't really look after your health only when you're in your 50s. You know what I mean? By then, your body system might already have deteriorated. So it's something that you have to look after from the start by having, good lifestyle, diet and exercise, and also discovering what your purpose is, so that whatever decisions you make is able to support this life purpose that you have. Yeah. So in my case, my life purpose, I hope to continue to empower individuals with financial literacy. So I may continue to teach in the varsity, or I may continue writing freelance, if I'm no longer working full time, I mean. And the other life purpose would be to continue volunteering in my church. I'm a Catholic, so I hope to continue to volunteer in my church as well.
That's what were the strategies that you used to come up with this life purpose, to decipher and realize what your life purpose is? Because I think one of the things we've had from other financial experts who've come on, they always say, when people ask, hey, how do I invest? What's my investment strategy? They always say you have to start with what you want. And effectively what you're describing is you have to start with your purpose. Like, well, your investment strategy depends on like what is your happily ever after? Like, what do you want from your life?
Yeah.
And
sorry. Yes, continue.
No, please.
No, I wanted to say that for some people, it's not easy to discover their life purpose. Like I was sharing earlier, my daughter's life purpose is to share her artwork. She has a passion in drawing and illustrating and designing stuff. But when I was younger, I really had no purpose in that sense, So I had to discover what I enjoy along the way. Yeah. So So financial wise, I started out as having a good money personality in the sense that I save for no reason. I just save because just a good saver. So because I started saving since day one, when I started my retirement planning in my 30s, I was ready to invest
Yeah.
because I already have my savings. I have my war chest, so to speak. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
the purpose bit came along the way for me. I guess it's different from everybody. My daughter will say, she's passionate in art, but then she might not have the finance part of it because it's not so easy to be a successful artist at the start. Yeah. So for me, I may not have the purpose, but I started financially okay because I was a very good saver, and then I discovered investments, protection, and I'm able to grow along that line, grow my assets and all that. And then when I went into the different career, different jobs that I was in, and then I went into writing, and I was writing about finance, and I realized I actually have a big role to play in this area because there's so little knowledge in this area. Financial literacy, something that everybody needs, but not everybody knows, or they think they may not, or they may think they do not need it, but they actually do. So along the way, I discovered this can be my purpose, and because I enjoy doing it. Yeah. So right now I've been writing about finance in the papers, and now with DPS, and I'm also sort of teaching in the varsity in Singapore.
Fantastic. And given this breadth, what do you think? What can you tell the women right now watching our discussion? What
Yes.
are the tools that they would have to use to get them their happily ever after? Like, tell me what to do. Because I agree with you. I agree. Number one is health. Number two is purpose. Number three is having a life of meaning, giving back, and having the luxury of time and resources to be able to do that. So how do I get there?
Well, but they can Google financial planning tools. Okay. Financial planning tools because it depends on which country you're from. So if you're in Singapore, you can look for DBS NAV Planner, which is an advanced digital financial planning tool. NAV as in NAV, short for navigating, NAV Planner. So depending on the countries, which country you're in, I'm not sure what the search items might throw up. So it's something that y'all can do. Because when I was younger and I came up with my spreadsheets to plan my retirement and my happily ever after, I was using Excel spreadsheets. But right now with technology, it's so hassle-free if you have a digital tool to help you. And these digital tools can help you with budgeting. They can help you to identify your insurance and your investment gaps to help you achieve financial wellness, and at the same time help you to understand and give you clarity in all your finances. So like in Singapore, there are platforms like the DBS NAV Planner where you can auto-populate your bank information, your government information like your pension information, as well as your housing information, your stocks information, your insurance details. They can all be auto-populated or manually entered into the platform. So by doing that, it can help you with your budgeting. You can set saving quotas and so on. It can also give you customized insights and customized solutions to help you with investing and point you towards the direction that you want to go to retire well, to achieve your happily ever after. So I would encourage you to Google financial planning tools. If you haven't started on budgeting, these tools can definitely at the minimum help you with your budgeting. And if you want something more advanced, then look for tools that can give you the features that I just mentioned, helping you with your other aspects of the financial plan. So it's holistic. It's not just about investments, but it's about all the other aspects, all the other components of a holistic financial plan. So I feel that's very, very important.
Yeah. And I think what you just described exactly, it's holistic. It's holistic, and it's not just going to take a minute. And I think so many people, and especially women, we end up getting overwhelmed by how, like, the breadth of it. It just sounds so overwhelming. So the preference is just to stick your head in the sand. So one thing, for example, and this is a shameless plug, but it's not entirely shameless because it's useful. One of the things we did at Vixie, which is exactly what you're describing, we created this 3-minute thing. All you have to do is write 3 or 4 pieces of information. and we calculate what your number is. It's basically like, what's your number? This is borrowed from the FIRE movement. It's like, how much money do you need to be able to never have to work again in your life, right? To be able to, if I wanted to have my happily ever after in 10 years, how much do I need to save every month to get there, right? And it's super simple. Obviously, Lorna is correct. You need to also look in your specific country because there's a lot of different variables. But we did something really simple, which is like, how much money do you need? 4% compounded interest, right? And it's been really interesting to see like how different users have responded to that, because, you know, it's really hard to ignore your future when the number is staring at you. So for example, when we were experimenting with coming up with our calculations and putting the number inside of the application, my sister and I, we sat at the kitchen table and we're like, okay, what's your number? What's your number, right? And when Bill, you know, or Bill speak arguably for you, but we both tabulate our number and I look at mine and I'm like, oh, okay, I gotta, maybe I have to spend a little bit more time, probably not retire at 45, maybe retire like at 50, you know? And my sister looks at me, she's like, yeah, I think I'm going to need a second job. And you know, it's so empowering. You need to know your number. You need to know your number. You need to know your end game, because you need to start making decisions today, right? To get there. You can't, here's what we don't want. And here's what the statistics tell us. Women are 80% more likely than men to retire in poverty. Guys, regardless of what your job was before, like it's so scary that we think we're going to live forever. We think we're going to be young forever, but your labor years, by the time you're 35, you're kind of almost midway through your labor years, which means how are you going to keep accumulating that money? And I think that's what so many women, unfortunately, start to realize a little bit too late, though it's never too late. And I think, you know, people often ask us, when is the best time to start? And it's like, now. When's the best time to invest? Today. When's the best time to do something about it? Literally immediately during this call, or preferably like immediately after getting out of this meeting. Please do something. You know, as Lorna said, go and Google a financial tracking tool in your country. Download the Bixie app and just find your number. And I'm not kidding, put it on a Post-it and stick it on your wall, and then come up with a plan to figure out how you're going to get that number. But the key is do something today, right? I guess another question I have for you is, what in that vein, or like, what are some misconceptions that people have about financial planning, like that you've seen or that you work with? What are some missteps and miscalculations that people make?
Yeah, one myth that is quite common is that people believe that you have to be rich in order to set up a financial plan, but that is really just a myth, because it really depends on what you do with your income and not how much you actually earn. Yeah. So for a high earner, if the person squanders the money away or invests unwisely, I mean, it's as good as, you know, being not in a very favorable position. So it's always good to start small and get your budgeting, emergency cash right, and have save enough, have surplus in order to be able to buy adequate insurance to protect yourself and invest well and wisely, as well as think about planning for your home and planning for your retirement and estate planning all at the same time, because all these will impact a person regardless of your age and regardless of your income. Yeah.
I think what you just said is so apt. I mean, there's so many people, especially in this, like in our, people think investments and planning is for the rich, right? We just connote planning with wealth. And the second big fallacy that you rightly point out, people who earn high incomes are not shielded from falling into financial precarity, because it's all about just a lot of people who earn a lot. What have we seen? Also spend a lot, right? And so it doesn't matter how much you earn. If you're spending it all, you still have zero at the end of the day, right? So I think those are two really critical things that you just pointed out. So if you're a person who doesn't earn a lot, you are by no means, behind the curve. You can still financially plan. You can still plan for your future. And conversely, if you're a person who just has a lot of zeros after their, you know, number in their paycheck, it does not mean you shouldn't start planning, because you should also be tracking, how much is also leaving my bank account every month, right? So that's really, I think that's really great advice. So it applies to everybody basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, you brought up your daughter earlier, like kind of what would be, you know, and I think a lot of people, myself included, I also have a child, granted she's very young, but, you know, what would be a financial tool or a tool or an approach or something that you think, okay, I need my daughter to know this. Like, this is so important. She needs to have this. She needs to know this. What would you give your own child?
Well, earlier on you mentioned about having that number. So I think a good tool would be to Google again, retirement calculator, and use that calculator, which is probably a very interactive tool for you to enter certain fields like when you want to retire, how much you think you require, and you will, and as well as your current financial status, so that it's able to project for you and see, you know, what kind of shortfalls you have.
That's exactly what we have in our number. It's four things, and we'll shoot you your number. I couldn't agree with you more. Actually, it was from Google. It was from Googling 5 years ago. My FIRE number, basically my, you know, it's a very rough calculation, my retirement number, that I realized, oh crap, like I need to make some serious changes. And it made me re-strategize my life, and it made me make a lot of different decisions. And it was really like the locus for starting the company, right? So I think you're right. The first thing, what everybody can walk away, literally right this second, you can download the Bixi app and calculate your number, or go on Google and calculate a retirement number. They're called like FIRE numbers, retirement numbers. Do that, write down your number, put it on a Post-it, and don't just stick your head in the sand. You know what I literally did 5 years ago? I wrote it on a Post-it and I put it in front of my desk for years.
Well, DBS just launched its DBS retirement calculator. So I think if you Google that, you can get that too.
Exactly. Don't stick your head in the sand. Put it in front of yourself, because every single decision that you make needs to be in furtherance of that number. And I think another thing.
Sorry, yeah, I'd just like to share how I sort of came up with my spreadsheet for retirement planning, because I thought it's more important than just having a magic number, because it's more than just having a magic number, right? So when I started retirement planning in my 30s, I actually sat down, used the spreadsheet, and I came up with 3 retirement lifestyles: basic, moderate, and luxurious. And against each lifestyle, I tabulate the expenses for my estimated needs and wants. So every lifestyle has needs and wants, needs and wants, needs and wants. And then on the other side of the spreadsheet, I come up with my income flows and the time frame that I think these income flows will come in. And then I look at the shortfalls, and this gives me greater clarity on what I can invest in, or the tools that I have to close the gaps. And it also gives me a more realistic time frame on when I can retire. So as opposed to just having a magic number, because we're not just going to decumulate from a magic number, right? So at the closer you get to retirement, like myself, I would have allocated my assets into 3 different buckets, like a decumulation bucket, a preservation bucket, and a growth bucket, because I don't know how long I'm going to live, so I still need to grow my assets. So it's very important to have them properly allocated, so that at different times of your life, and depending on which lifestyle I decided that I want to have, like the moderate or the luxurious one, I know which income flows will guaranteedly come in, or not come in, but a variable payout. So it can be a guaranteed payout or variable payout, or it comes in a lump sum. So I would have built diversified passive income flows like this. So I think it's better to think in terms of passive income flows rather than just have one figure, you know, because you're not just going to decumulate. You need to preserve some money. You need to grow some money.
I think that's so helpful. I think you're super insightful. It's not a magic number. The number is just to kind of take stock and look and be like, okay, how far am I from this right now?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's not the end of the journey. Like that's the beginning. The next step is, I think you're so right. People don't think about, do I want to, they're just like, oh, I just want to retire. But yeah, do you want to retire and eat ramen every day, or do you want to retire and, travel and take photos of yourself, like hanging out with your, loved ones and having a fabulous time? You need to have a vision of what that is and a plan to align themselves to all of them, right? And I think that's so apt. I also think I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Like, we talk a lot about retirement, but one thing that I think that we hear a lot, because we have this, the app, and we have the community platform. Retirement seems, there's this thing in psychology called the discount rate, right? Human beings tend to overestimate the present and underestimate the future. So the word retirement connotes something very far away, right? It's like the future. I'm underestimating that. One thing that we found really helpful is not actually to use the word retirement. It's, like we said, we called this happily ever after, or what would you, what's your number that you never have to work again? It's really this idea of making things more imminent. What is your dream? A lot of people have dreams of like, I want to travel the world, by the time I'm 40. Okay, if you want to do that, what's your plan to get there, right? I think trying to bring it in more to today, as opposed to this faraway time, retirement, because people always say, oh, retirement. It's like they're imagining themselves at 80, and it's like, it's not that far away. But what do you think about the terminology around retirement and planning? Like,
so when I talk to my students and I mention retirement, some of them might roll their eyes, but it seems so far away. But if I use terms like financial freedom,
yes,
and I explain to them that because we live longer lives now, it's actually possible to have different phases in our life. So it's no longer the 3-stage phases of studying and then working and then retirement and then you kick the bucket. Right now you can work and then you can take a sabbatical, travel around the world, but make sure you have enough money to do that, and then come back again to the workforce. And work again, study, have a second degree, take your master's, and then continue again. So it's possible to have different mini phases of financial freedom. And while you still have that big picture of, one day you will finally have that full retirement phase, or maybe not, right? It can just be a semi-retirement phase throughout. It can be a lot of mini happily ever after.
I think that you're so
one at the end.
That's exactly what, and I think this is really critical to everybody listening. Don't think of it as retirement. Think of it as you're able to do whatever you want at different phases in your life. So many phases of our life are different. There's a time when we're like, oh, I love working. I want to travel all the time for my work. And then there's a time when you just had your baby and you're like, honestly, I don't want to work for a year. I want to stare at my baby. Or I want to travel the world for 2 years and I don't really feel like going to the office. You should, to have the freedom to make these decisions, we kind of need a little bit of resources to cushion those different chapters of our life. Or you want to start your own business, like you need to have money to start your own business and, enough to last you so that your business can have the ebbs and flows for it to become a sustainable, viable business. I think that really what you're describing is almost like changing financial planning a little bit on its head. You're almost, and I see this changing, particularly because we know that millennials are 25 to 41 years old right now. We're no longer kids, right? Like, full disclosure, I'm a millennial. I'm turning 40 next week. We have, we have to really think about financial planning very differently because what we want from life is obviously very different. So I'm almost wondering, like, talking out loud and brainstorming it through, you're describing a very different financial plan. It's not linear anymore. It's like, it's like, how would you describe that? Like, it's like a jungle gym, right? Like, or really just being able to own every single phase of your life and kind of not have to do things, I guess.
Well, I guess if you want to put a term to it, you can think of it as, short-term goals and long-term goals, but looking at both at the same time. So if you're planning for your wedding or the house renovation, and then the kids come, you cannot wait till you have finished planning for your kids' education or they have finished their varsity, and then you start planning for your retirement. You have to do it all at the same time. So that means being able to allocate your savings into a different investment tools to be able to help you. So that's one way to look at it, I suppose. And I suppose there are also a wider range of investment tools right now compared to my time when I was younger. So you have the robo advisory platforms these days, and you also have more funds that's offering income payouts, regular income payouts. It's not just something that you withdraw at the end of it, but they actually give you a fixed income payout every month or every quarter. So that may appeal to younger people, not necessarily only for people who are retirees, for people who are taking a sabbatical, for instance, or they want to stop work and pursue other business startups and so on. So this income flow from an investment fund may be able to help you to do that. So there are investments that can support such decisions. So I think people are luckier these days because there are so many options out there. So, of course, if you don't know what to do, then it's good to approach a professional person and a professional advisor to help you to decide on what instruments work best for you and for the goals that you have ahead.
And my last question to you is about DeFi. Obviously, DeFi, blockchain, crypto, it's occupying an increasing space in how people are thinking about capital. Here at Bixie, everything that has to do DeFi is always our most popular topic, our best attended event. Everybody wants to know about it. How can people incorporate this new emerging kind of capital markets into their thinking? Because I know a lot of people are like, oh, let's just buy crypto and get rich, and then that's going to be my retirement plan. Like that seems to be like the millennial retirement plan. Right? And hey, like there's sometimes it might work for a handful of people, but whether or not it's sustainable is another thing. Where do you fall on DeFi? Where do you land on DeFi? What are your thinking around it? How would you tell, or share with our community how they should approach DeFi?
In terms of the spectrum of risks, I would say DeFi, crypto, I would rank it as quite high risk. It will fall into the high risk category for me. So I would not recommend it as a core portfolio or core portfolio for most people. But you can invest into it as more of a satellite portfolio. More I would sort of categorize together with alternative investments and so on. So hopefully, it might give you good returns, but we don't know yet because the risk is still there. Not all governments approve it as a regulatory item, even in Singapore. So we have to monitor and see, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like basically we're at the point where we can't ignore it, but whether or not everybody should put all of their eggs in that basket is also we're not quite there yet, right? And I
definitely would recommend everyone to put all their money into crypto.
Yeah. The temptation is there. So now I want to open to the floor for any questions. Just anybody. Look, ladies, y'all wanted a financial expert, so here you go. Ask your questions. This is the moment. Ask any questions because, as Laura just mentioned, any questions around financial experts means you have to go find your own. Here's a financial expert. Ask any questions. I have a question. You just said something really interesting to me about certain funds that generate income. What can you describe some of those? What are they kind of ubiquitously available? What do they look like? What are they called?
If you're talking about the low risk, I mean, they come in different risk levels. The very low risk one will be the Singapore savings bonds, for instance, or any government bonds, so they'll probably have a coupon payouts, right? At DBS Bank, we've recently launched the Barbell retail income fund. Barbell income fund, which is meant for retail investors. So So it will give you a fixed income payout of about 4% every month, and it may give you some upside, along the way or at the end of it. So it's not something where it's not a product where you compound and hope to see a very big figure at the end, because you are receiving some payouts along the way. But it might suit some people who require the regular payout. So this might appeal to retirees, or it might appeal to younger people who are, taking a break from their career, or might still be working but want to use this as the way to fund their yearly holidays, for instance, or their vacations, or some of their lifestyle expenses. So this might be a suitable product for them.
Yeah, digital nomads. Hear that? Those who want to kind of travel the world. That's really interesting. All right. Any questions from the floor? Bill, do you have any questions that you would like to ask Lorna? This is an opportunity to speak with a financial advisor.
I don't have questions. I don't have any question, but I totally obviously we've been doing a lot of lives about like finances, investment, savings, but still today is like another an enlightening day for me, especially when Lorna started with like, okay, ladies, a man is not a financial plan, and you have to do. And I was so really impressed with how she does the Excel sheets. So I think I'm inspired to do that. I've been, I have my own like just a list, but I'm inspired to do that. And I kind of like the part where she's like, okay, I have a basic plan, I have a moderate, and I have a luxurious plan. So I'm at this point in my, when I heard that, I'm like, okay, I think I should be starting to plan for my luxurious life. So, I mean, who knows? But yeah, it's always an interesting topic to be not just knowing what I want for the present, but more importantly, what I want for my future. So that's my biggest takeaway for today. So it's not a question, but it's more of like a general takeaway. Like I'm asking myself now, what do I want today, and what do I want for my future? I think that's the bigger goal that I should have in mind. So yeah.
Yeah, because along the way, our expectations and our needs and wants, they will change. So it's good to be prepared early and make the changes as we go along. And as long as we are as long as we are viably employed, we can still make the changes, extend our years in employment. But once you have left the workforce, you may or may not be able to return, maybe due to health reasons, or maybe there's no longer a relevant role for you. So it's good to have a buffer and plan early and monitor it consistently.
Yeah. And so you just brought it. Oh, sorry.
There's a question here. I am flashing it on the screen. So one of the key elements, the happy ever after, is around on discipline. What kind of skill set should our ladies develop to start this journey?
I think a basic skill set is to be able to save. So I've been using the pay yourself first approach, which I find is sort of inculcates a lot of discipline in savings. So what it means is I will automatically have a portion of my income transferred the minute my paycheck comes in. So with today's technology, it's very easy, because you just need to indicate in your digital portal for the bank, whichever bank you're with, to indicate that you want these transfers to be done automatically every month, and on which date and where it goes to. So of course, it's best to transfer it to maybe a higher yielding account, so that while you're saving it, you can also earn some nice returns along the way. So by being able to save the minute your pay comes in, you already hit your savings quota or savings target for that month and for the year. So in that sense, it's hassle free. You don't have to remember, and you don't spend your money and then you save. You save first, and then from the paycheck you use it to fund your whatever expenses that you have. And this will help you to cut down on discretionary expenses too. You know, if you find that you're unable to save to the target that you wish to have, and whenever you have pay increases, pay increment, or your bonuses, yearly bonuses, it's good to also decide, you know, beforehand what you want to use it for. It's good to reward ourselves, of course, you know, buy that pair of shoes or to go for that holiday. But most of the time, I will use most of my bonuses to pay off, say, the housing mortgage, you know, that I may be having at that point in time, or I may use it to fund or to buy certain investments that I've been eyeing, or to, you know, to put more money into a favorite investment, for instance, so that it can grow the money faster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, you just brought up this, it's such oh, sorry, well, Boyd, would you mind putting on mute really fast, just because there's an echo, I think, in IG. You brought up this pay yourself first. I remember reading that this is a habit of rich people versus poor people. And at the top of of our discussion, you'd mentioned, you know, you'd kind of been rubbing shoulders with different types of investors and people at different income levels. I'm really curious if you could kind of share what are other, have you seen any differences beyond just pay yourself first? Any other differences between, you know, habits of people with money and those without money? Because I think that's so important. Paying yourself first is critical, and it's something that is a habit that people with money have. What are some other habits that they have?
The other habits is to have a keen eye for, you know, what are the investments that can give you passive income flows.
Yeah.
So this would be something that will be very useful when you're entering your happily ever after stage. So tools that can give you passive income flows could be a rental from an investment property. It could be coupon payouts from bonds, or it could be dividends from stocks, dividends from REITs as well, real estate investment trusts.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's good to have an eye out as well, for a keen eye for such investments as well that can give you such passive income flows. In Singapore, a lot of people will be relying on the pensions system that we have here, what we call the Central Provident Fund. So it also gives attractive interest rates of at least 2.5%, 4%, up to even 6%. So if you know how to optimize and maximize it, it is actually a very low-hanging fruit for Singaporeans to use it as a foundation of their retirement plans. So you ladder up with other instruments, you know, as you grow your investments or grow your assets.
Wow, you're really on top of all of your financial planning. I think all of us can. It is safe to say that we're all going to be knocking on Lorna's door when we hit retirement, if we didn't plan as well, because she'll be living in the luxury category, more than likely. It's inspirational. As you mentioned, you know, when you started planning, you didn't have the simple access to the tools that we all have. You know, you did it straight on a spreadsheet. All of us have access to more tools. We provide a number of these tools in the Bixi app, or as Lorna mentioned, if you're in Singapore and or interested in opening a DB or being a part of the DBS community, they also have an app for a lot of these things. We're lucky. We live in the age of ruling the world from our smartphones. So let's take control of our own lives from our smartphone, and you know, and download these really useful and helpful tools to kickstart our journey. So with that said, I want to thank you, Lorna, so much for sharing your thoughts.
Sorry, we have more questions.
Oh, we have another question. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So there's two questions. One I was messaged. So, but I'm gonna go first. I think it's a follow-up question to this discipline. This discipline question. Allison asks, how about if your financial status is negative, or if one is in debt? That's the first question.
So if you're in debt, and if you have different kinds of debt, then try to settle the debts that cause you to pay a lot in interest. So try to reduce your high interest rate debt first, because it's going to cost you more, right? The interest is high. So if it's like a credit card debt, normally it's like 25% per annum. So try to reduce those debts first, and I mean, some debts are also good debt. So if it's a debt that allows you to the asset to appreciate over time and you can sell it at a higher price, or if it's a study loan that allows you to get an MBA and then you can get a higher paying job in the future. So that's not too worrisome, but it's the bad debts that you want to get rid first. If you're really, if your debt has snowballed to a huge amount, then it's good to approach a financial institution and discuss a way where they can help you manage your debt better. So like in Singapore, we have the debt consolidation plan scheme in the banks. So the banks will sit down and try to consolidate your debts from the different banks, offer you a lower interest rate and work out the time period that you can realistically settle your debt. So because the government doesn't want us to also falter because of debt. So they offer such a scheme for every Singaporean and even foreigners if you have a debt in Singapore.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. And the other question says, wait, I'm just gonna get it. What if you used to work in the corporate world, but you left? Do you still have a chance to attain financial independence, even if you're earning a little bit? I mean, like smaller than what you earned when you were in the corporate world.
Well, I suppose it boils down to what we said earlier, that you don't have to be rich to be able to set up a financial plan. So I will encourage you to do that regardless of how much you're earning. So you can start small and build up your finances along the way. So start small, start with a good budget, a sound budget, so that you're able to reduce your discretionary unwanted expenses, unnecessary expenses, and then you can increase your surplus savings, and from there look at your protection needs, and then invest wisely, and of course look at government schemes as well.
Thank you so much. Do we still have other questions? Somebody here, her name is Jolene Ong. She says, "Hi, Lorna." I think, yeah.
Hi, Jolene.
Yeah. Any other questions, ladies? Someone in our chat on IG said, "Can't help but nod my head, learning a lot from this talk." Yeah, I agree. Me too. Okay. Wait, I think I'm getting a.
Oh, the other thing I want to mention, since we are majority of women in this conversation here, if you have been depending on your husband, your spouse to do all the finances, then it's a good time as any to sit down and be involved in the finances. Because a lot of time if and when the husband passes away, the woman might be clueless as to where the finances are, what are the bank accounts, whether there's a will, there's a lasting power of attorney, what has actually the husband done with the finances. So you want to make sure while he's still alive and still married to you, that certain strategies have been put in place so that liabilities can be settled when something untoward happen. Kids' education can still be paid for, and you can still have your life that you can still carry on your life comfortably even though the breadwinner is not around. So it's good to look at and be involved with the major financial decisions, and also understand where all the accounts are and where all the instruments are. So have a spreadsheet, have a family spreadsheet. So what I have in my spreadsheet is I have all the accounts, contact persons, insurance plans, investments, where the will is, where the CPF where the nominations are, if there are insurance plans and so on, and who to contact and so on. So this will give an idea if anything happens, what to do. So you're not clueless and you're not helpless, because that's the last thing you want, when something untoward happens.
That is, I am nodding emphatically, because after I got married, that was literally the very first thing we did. Write down everything and have that candid conversation. So many people get married, never talk about money, and then realize, their finances are in complete disarray. Before you get married, talk about money, be honest, write down all debts, assets, liabilities, put down where everything is located, and hide that piece of paper somewhere where nobody can find it, except for your significant other. But it's so important. I think you're so right to point out, yes, a man is not a financial plan, but when you have decided to enter into a legal agreement where you've consolidated all of your assets, the other partner to your corporation, y'all need to have conversations. So in my marriage, we actually approach it like a corporation. So we have quarterly check-ins and we look at all of our finances every quarter, quite literally in a PowerPoint presentation, just to make sure, are we on track? Is this, what are our goals? What do we want to achieve? And it's really, really important. So I'm so glad that you brought that up. Yes, we have to do it on our own, but we also have to do it when we have decided to do it in tandem with somebody else. We have to do it together, jointly.
Yeah. I mean, it's very powerful. The power of two is very powerful. I mean, when you're married and you're able to invest in certain big ticket items, like maybe in property, it's actually very powerful and can go a long way. So, but at the same time, it's good to understand each other's money habits, cut some slack, but at the same time, know what each other is doing.
Making happily ever after, that would be quite a fun series of questions on your date. By your third date, you're basically saying you need to talk about your money habits. You know if one's a spendthrift or a saver before you decide to marry. I think that's a great idea. Great. Any other questions from anybody? Single ladies, married ladies? Perfect.
There's no more from the chat, and there's no more from my personal messages. So I think we're good.
Well, once again, thank you so much, Lorna. I hope that I would love to see if you have anything else that you want to share with the Big C community. Please send it to us, and we will share it inside of in the app. We have community, we have our live events. We can put in live links. We often upload a ton of information there. So, Lorna, if you want to share anything, please do. I also would love, we'll plug your books inside of the Bixie app, inside the community, because I think I'd love to check them out.
This is available on Amazon if you want to get one.
I'm sure our end users would also, everything is about starting today, building habits today. And as Lorna has shown us, this is a holistic approach. So number one is your health, right? Make sure exercise, meditation, eat healthily. Without that, we have nothing else. And then tools, make sure to think about taking one step towards having a tool. Pay yourself first. I think that's really, really critical as a takeaway, something that we can all start doing now. And my key takeaway is passive income flows. I've got to get active on passive income flows. I think that's definitely a step in that direction. So I hope everybody who tuned in tonight was able to take away something from it. We'll upload the recorded version of this on our Bixie app. We'll share all of the follow-up information there as well. And Bill, I'll leave you to close, but I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Lorna, and thank you so much to everybody who joined us in their time after a long, busy day. We hope that we have provided you with value to know your worth and to grow our worth, because that's what we're here for. So thank you so much. Bill, over to you for closing.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, I'm just going to unmute my IG. Okay. Thank you so much, Lorna and Rosalia, for this very fruitful discussion. I'm sure all the ladies and, of course, the gentlemen who are here in the live event right now were so much enriched by this discussion. So before we close, again, Kath said, thank you, Miss Lorna. You've touched a lot of valuable lessons that we can carry through our journey to financial independence. So I'm sure that's the general sentiment of all who have watched this live event tonight. So, but before we go, I would like to flash again for the benefit. Thank you for the learnings, said Karen. Oh, Karen is actually one of my classmates in high school. She's here. She's here this evening. So yeah. So before we close, this is for the benefit of those who just who came in later in the middle of the stream, because I can see that more people came in the middle of the stream. So earlier I flashed on if you want to be Big C ambassador. So First, you have to download the Bixi app. You can see two QR codes on the screen. You can save this. You can take a screenshot of what you're looking at the screen right now, or you can scan it right now. So there's one for one for iOS and one for Android. At the same time, when you after you download, register, and then under hot deals, it's on the first page. You won't miss that. Under hot deals, there's a free insurance with unlimited telemedicine consultation that is available for everyone. But of course, the slots are limited. And the promo will be ending at the end of this month. So there's few more slots left, and the promo is ending until the end of the month. But don't worry, even the promo is ending at the end of the month. As long as you've signed until the end of the month, until April 30, you will still be covered until the end of the period that our partner has initially offered. So, number one, download the Bixi app. Number two, sign up for the free insurance. And if you have more questions and if you want to be a Bixi ambassador, just reach out to any of our social media channels. We have Bixi Instagram, we have Bixi Facebook page, we have the Bixi app. We have a community inside the Bixi app, and we have a LinkedIn account. But if you're, let's say, if you're too shy to contact any of the Bixi pages, you can message me if we're friends on Facebook or Instagram, like some of the questions here this afternoon. So again, thank you so much, Lorna, for gracing our event this afternoon. It was really truly enriching, and it like one of our viewers said, it touched a lot of valuable lessons towards financial independence. And I can see some more people who are ladies who are joining the event right now. So, but we're nearing the end of our event. Like Rosalia said earlier, we will be uploading this in the coming days to inside our Bixi app. So please, it's very important that you download the Bixi app right now. It's a flash on the screen. There's QR codes, and if you missed it, you can message any of our social media channels to get the link to the download. So thank you so much, everyone. Those who are on IG right now, hello, and thank you so much. Those who are on Facebook, LinkedIn, thank you so much. And we hope to see you again in our next live event. So just tune in for our next live event, and we will see you again soon. Bye.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.